Welcome to a football show Wednesday edition. That's right. Predators on Thursday. Tomorrow, Gold Standard with Emma Lingen on Thursday because NHL free agency is today. So Nick's on vacation and he's happy to join us. I'm happy, maybe is not the right word, here on a Wednesday, but we are brought to you by Sinkers Beverages, and that is Nick Suss. I am Braden Gall. Nick, where in the world is Nick Suss right now?
I've been on island time since Saturday, and I have no idea what's going on in the world. So I'm here. How are you guys?
So interesting headline on the Tennessean from Gentry Estes about Cam Ward. So I'm going to ask you about the coverage of Cam Ward. So we'll discuss that. Then we're going to dive into, I want to ask you the same questions that I asked Paul on Monday, which is sort of what does the next 3 to 5 years look like if Cam Ward is great or if Cam Ward is a bust? We'll talk Brendan Sorsby, maybe some World Cup stuff. It'll be a short episode, a light episode, a beach vacation episode, as it were. Yes, congratulations, Bustin, to all you English footy fans.
Yeah, if Jake,
Harry Kane scored twice in the final 20 minutes.
I'd be interested to see if Jake, who chimes in sometimes from the UK, is going to watch live today, or if he's busy having the happiest day.
Emma looks different, Josh says. That's fair. Is it the happiest day? I don't know. We'll see.
It's the happiest day yet.
There you go. Okay, Sinkers Beverages, everybody. If you're watching the World Cup match tonight, the USA, if you are watching World Cup matches at all, make sure you go to Sinkers Beverages and use them to stock up on all of your beverage needs. And they'll take care of you, whether it's a watch party tonight, on Monday, should they win the USA, should they win tonight, whatever it is you're watching, make sure you use Sinkers Beverages to stock up on all your needs. Yes, if Bosnia and Herzegovina play well tonight, I'm going to need some Sinkers Beverages in my life. And at that time, you got to Uber Eats, if you're at the end of a game and you're disappointed, make sure you're using Uber Eats to send the booze directly to your house if you need a drink because of that. So search Sinkers Beverages, have that booze delivered directly to your house. Great bourbon selection right now. I went in there and got a bottle of Colonel Taylor the other day. It was just sitting right there. I just was like, hey, they're under $50 for Colonel Taylor, E.H. Taylor. It's great. You got to go in there and check out Sinkers Beverages. Also, great local craft beer, East Nashville Beer Works, Yazoo Brewing Company, Tennessee Brew Works, where I had lunch today. Delicious. You can always go down there on Ewing Street, and it's a great place to grab a meal. We watched some of the English match and had a meal. It was great. Had to meet with some folks, and then here we are talking about the Titans. So make sure you check out those great local breweries, all of which you can buy at Sinkers Beverages. Wait, you mean Nick has been sober this whole time?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not usually drinking at 9 a.m. when we do our live shows.
It's true. That's true. Although vacation is the time to do it. Space City Titan says, early thoughts, Braden, Mexico v. England. If England plays the way it has against Ghana and against the Congo today, and they can figure out how to stop Harry Kane, that is at altitude in Estadio Azteca. That is going to be a hard match. Mexico-England in Mexico City is phenomenal footy. Just let you know. So there you go. But Bustin, I've used this on my kids. They go, what's Bosnia and Herzegovina? I go, we got to play 2 teams. That's how good we are. And they love that. Your joke's not as good.
Meanwhile, earlier when somebody had to play one guy named Jordan, that was just too easy.
There's got to be another one of those in there somewhere, right?
Chad.
There's got to be Chad. Yeah, there you go. There's got to be another one. I know this isn't a Preds video, but I'm still taking my victory lap. We'll victory lap tomorrow, Loppy, with Emma and I are going to be live tomorrow. So there you go. Yes, Wyatt Cullen is Pred, and they had a great trade today for the Predators. Okay, here's the headline in the Tennessean. I just want to bring this up, and we're going to use this as a jumping off point because I have not had a chance to read it because the paywall and everything. Gentry Estes : It's not too early for Titans to be concerned about Cam Ward. And it got me thinking, because you and I spend a lot of time trying not to overreact to what we see at a practice or an OTA or a mini camp. We spend a lot of time talking about how to analyze all of that. Paul and I spend a lot of time trying to say, like, when does it become a story that he's inaccurate or a story that this or that or the other thing is happening, right? Like, it's not until midway or the second half of the season where you really should start to form more solid opinions about his future. And so we've spent a lot of time with that. And so ultimately, and Stillman's on the platform, and Stillman's very outspoken about how he's got concerns about Cam Ward. I think in the NFL, I don't really care about your feelings. I think you have to deal with pressure and scrutiny. I think that just happens. I think it's even worse if you happen to be the number 1 pick. And at quarterback, it's a perfect storm of expectation and focus and attention and all this other stuff. Do you think the media is covering Cam Ward fairly? Do you think, and this is not about your publication or Gentry's opinions, this is just about, in general, do you think we have approached covering Cam Ward the right way? As a whole thing, not just you.
I mean, the reason I'm kind of smirking is like, what other way is there to cover the guy? Like, I think that talking about his struggles or lack thereof is fair. I think that when you have the visibility you do, the platform you do, as the starting quarterback of one of the 32 teams in the NFL, as one of the starting quarterbacks who was picked number 1 overall, which, though that happens almost every year, it is still a very small fraternity of players. At any given time, there are no more than 10 to 15 number 1 picks active in the NFL at the same time. So is it fair to scrutinize him? Is it fair to talk about expectations being over the top? Is it fair to... Yes, there is no other way to talk about somebody who comes from the most visible position in the most visible draft pick, in the most visible league, in the most visible country on earth. Like, of course, the level of scrutiny, the level of talk, the level of discussion about this guy is going to be out of proportion to the rest of the league, to the rest of the team, oftentimes to the rest of the quarterbacks in his age group, because he was the number 1 pick and he's a starter from day 1 and he's a guy who had to start 17 games as a rookie, and he is fundamentally been picked to be the face of a franchise for a team that hasn't had a quarterback be the face of the franchise probably in a quarter century. It's been a long time since the Titans have had that guy. And so any level of scrutiny, whether it is positive scrutiny or negative scrutiny, whether it's, oh, this guy needs to be the king of Nashville in order for him to be worth the pick, or whether it is, this guy stinks, get him out of here, he's not worth the pick no matter what he does. It's not unfair to talk about the guy this way. Nobody becomes a starting quarterback in the NFL because they're a shrinking violet. Nobody becomes a quarterback in the NFL and just wishes the world would leave them alone. They've all got a superiority chip on their shoulder, whatever complex you want to call it, that makes them think. Do you know how much you have to overcome to get to this position? Do you know how many people are going to tell you you are never going to be good enough?
0 stars.
And that's not even talking about like the hype building, the mythology of it. I remember, must be 10 years ago now, but 7, 8 years ago, whenever it was, Tim Kuhn at ESPN wrote a great profile of Bryce Harper, where they talk about Bryce Harper at 10 years old writing an essay about how he's going to be a pro baseball player, and his teacher being like, no, you have to pick a different dream. You're not going to be a pro baseball player. And all of his classmates were like, no, he's right. Like, I know what you're doing as the teacher. You have to guard the 10-year-old, but like, he's going to be. We aren't. We know how good we are, but like, he will be. and I just think about, if Bryce Harper's getting that, I'm sure somebody told LeBron James when he was 10 that he like. Nobody...
Well, LeBron James had his plan to go from the Lakers to the Golden State Warriors at 10. He knew that plan was going to happen when he was 43 or whatever.
And so, if I know I'm soliloquizing here, and I'm sorry if this is a very long answer to a simple question, but if the question is it unfair to talk about this guy as much as we do, to put as much expectation on him, to scrutinize every single throw in OTAs, it's not unfair. Is it reasonable? Is it the behavior that a human being should exhibit? That's up to the discretion of our individual therapists.
Now you're talking about college football.
that is up to us. But is it as not to make this something it's not, but I've been thinking a lot the last 48 hours about why I fell in love with football and why football matters so much to me. And I'm going to use 2 like really simple, direct examples here. Number 1, last Wednesday, Tuesday, whenever it was, I was at the Tight End U Academy in Nashville. And I can't remember if I talked about it on the show last week. But
no, did you talk to Taylor? Did you see T Swizzle?
So I'm out there, and it's 10 in the morning or so, and there is a schedule that says at 11 o'clock, we're going to open the doors for the fan installation, and then doors to the stadium are going to open at 1. And I'm sitting there in the media room talking to some photographers, talking to some people from TV stations in Nashville. And I'm just like, why the heck would anyone show up 2 hours early for Tight End University? What is it? What do they think? What do they think people are going to do? Why would people show up 2 hours early for tight? It's a bunch of guys in shorts running around. It's not, I've been 5 times. It's not fun. And at 11 o'clock, I go out there mostly to just clown on it. And there's already a line of 200 people waiting to get in. And this was a free event that you had to reserve tickets for in advance. These people knew they would get in. And they were still waiting in line to be in the front row when there were only like 3,000 people that got let in. And Vanderbilt Stadium can fit 3,000 people. We know that. And I'm just looking around. And then I rationalize in my head, oh, it must be a bunch of Swifties. It must be a bunch of people just clamoring to see Travis Kelce. And then I look around and I see a guy in a Brenton Strange Jaguars jersey. Then I look around and I see a Jackson Smith and Jigba jersey.
Pretty on the nose, actually. It just says Strange on his back.
And then I look around and I see, I think it was 24 NFL teams I saw represented at this. And it's mostly 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds. It's mostly kids who just want to see football players, who just want to, be near a thing they care about. And then I fast forward to this week and I'm on a vacation with my family, and that includes spending time with my sister and my brother-in-law and their son, who's about to be 3 years old. And he's smart for his age. You give him credit. But even for being smart for his age, it's crazy that he's got 250 baseball cards memorized. Like
that's a lot.
You can hold up a baseball card, and it's not just like the Fernando Tatis one. It's Brian Campusano. It's Ryan Zefferjan. Like, he's just got baseball cards memorized. And his favorite activity is reading the cards. And I'm sitting here thinking, what is it about sports? What is it about this? That we've got a 3-year-old who's already clamoring every night, read me my cards, my cards.
Nick, I learned how to do math on the back of a 1988 Topps. You know what I mean?
I when I was
like 5 and 6 years old.
When I was about that age, when I was 1 or 2 years old, I had a book that on the back of it had all 31 of the NFL helmets at the time. And I had them memorized by the time. Yeah, for sure. Ed.
Your nephew is a card-carrying member of Geek Corner.
Very much emphasis on the card. But yeah, when I was 2 years old, I had all 31 helmets in the NFL memorized. Like, I was that way too. And I've been thinking about it a lot, and not to bring people down, I've been thinking about it a lot in the context of Chris Johnson and the heartbreaking diagnosis this week that we all learned about. And just when there is something that we can all rally around, when there is something that we can all agree, this is what we're all excited about. This is what we're all happy about. When I'm at a bar on Monday night with my brother-in-law, who is Dutch, and with his father, who is a Dutch immigrant, and we are all there watching the game, screaming along at almost midnight at PKs, all agreeing to root for this one thing.
That was a tough night.
It was a really tough night, but just like getting to experience that through their eyes, and getting to see my wife, who, you guys, if you've listened to the show, you've heard her chime in before. She admits that was probably the first sporting event in her entire life that she has watched beginning to end and cared about beginning to end. And seeing her screaming in public, just full on whooping and hollering and screaming, trying to will the Dutch one more penalty kick. And just like seeing the way that this can make us go. And I know I'm getting really philosophical about this, but this does apply to Cam Ward, of just like, is it unfair to care this much about his comings and goings? Yes. But is it unreasonable?
Yes.
This is what we all live for at a certain point. This is where our joy is derived from.
Look, it's illogical, it's irrational, it's unreasonable, it's all those things. But fan is not short for any of those words.
Yeah.
Fan is not short for logical or rational or reasonable. Fan is short for fanatic. By definition, we are all batshit crazy. Like that is baked right into the word. And as someone who started on like college football message boards for a living, holy cow, let me tell you. I think this is a fun test though. I don't think it's about cards because that's just not a thing anymore. Like I had baseball cards and eventually football cards growing up as a kid, and I loved them. And it was a huge thing. I still have like binders of like full sets from like 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, like all from like 88 to like 94. I had every baseball card, at least one full set each year. It was like a gift I would get for Christmas. But I think now the test, thinking about my kids going through the exact same process that you're talking about, like like my oldest, they both play soccer and they play softball, but my oldest loves watching football. Football is her favorite sport. And some is because she gets to say stupid things like, "Oh, I just like watch boys running into each other and hurting themselves." Like that's kind of the silly Neanderthal way to look at it. I think it's if you can describe to your mother what offsetting penalties are. Like that's what I think it is. So I'm not kidding. This was not even this year. This was like 2024. We were watching football and watching a Packers game, and penalties come in, and my wife's sitting there, and at the time she would have been 8. She looks at my wife and she just goes, "No, Mom, it's offsetting penalties, so they're going to replay the down." I was like, "Oh my God, I've had an effect on you." But also to your point, it's just like she just chose football. Like I started with baseball. Baseball is how I started, but then I started watching football, and I was like, "Oh, this is different. This is different stuff." And I think honestly, it's at its now I'm kind of taking it a different direction. I think it's at its core. It is very simple. It is you and I'm trying to get there. You're trying to stop me. That's it. That's it. It's like American Gladiators. Literally, there was a game in American Gladiators built on being a running back in football, where you carry a football and to put it. Like, I just think it's very basic. Now, to get to some of the comments in here, like Ed says, if they can't take it, they probably aren't the answer. Buston says it's part of being 1.1 overall quarterback. Unfortunately, I tend to agree with that. I don't think we have been too hard on him. I don't. I don't think that's the case at all. Now, do I do content the way Stillman does content? Like, no. I think you can be critical of someone without being bombastic, but that's not my style, and that's his style, and everybody has their own. I think this is interesting here from Coach Wills, though. He says, I don't know people. I didn't know people actually cared how the media thought about them. Literally carries zero weight on what happens on the field or the locker room, especially in 26 when everyone is chasing going viral. I think this is a fascinating observation because I think the players are trying to go viral just as much as the reporters are, in theory. I think it's human nature to care about what the world thinks of you. And the people who end up being the cool kids in high school are the ones who can put that aside the soonest and stop caring about what the world thinks about you. But it is human nature to wonder what the world is saying about you if you have a high-profile job. It's just baked into who we are. And so I don't think it's a sign that an athlete is less than or too sensitive or, whatever to be like, man, I'm paying attention to what's going on. Now, I think it can be detrimental to an athlete. I think we'll go to a coach here. John Calipari famously knew every single thing that was said about him in every single way. I think James Franklin called into a radio show one time that I was hosting locally to get us to stop talking about Tennessee because he was coaching at Vanderbilt at the time in the offseason. Like, I think coaches and some players care way too much about what's being said about them or how they're portrayed or whatever. But I remember a moment with it was me and TD, and we were on the third field, and it was AJ Brown. And he was just doing like front pylon fades with Ryan Tannehill, just sort of being a ball boy, just catching passes. And Tannehill throws one like kind of up and out of the end zone, and he goes up and catches it with one hand and gets both feet down, looks right at us because we're like 10 feet away from him. He walks right over to me and TD, and he goes, boys, we were like, yeah, you got to do that in a game, man. And he looks at us and he goes, no, you got to do it on a Monday night. It wasn't that big of a deal, but it was insight into how he thinks.
Yeah. And
how AJ Brown thinks is, where is the higher profile? Where is the platform? Where is the attention? Where is it all going? And like, there are players that are doing this stuff just as much as media is. And lots of the media, not to like defend our institution, like navel gazing here, but like most of us aren't trying to go viral. most of us love football the way Nick does and the way I do, and most of us are trying to tell a good story and have fun talking about a thing we love.
And let me
record.
kind of piggyback off of this and say, I think there is a difference. I think there is a difference between caring what the media says about you and caring about the way you are discussed. Like, do I think Cam Ward cares if reporter A writes a column that says he's not good enough, or if radio host B comes out and says, I don't like you? No. I don't care about, I don't think he cares specifically about what individuals are saying. But I also don't think that somebody who consents to have 2 documentaries made about him less than 2 years into his career just doesn't care about what people are saying about him. like
there's a difference between not being worried about your own self-portrayal, right? And not caring what people think of you. Or those are two different things, right?
Like, I think that there is certainly a camp behind every celebrity, and I'm not going to pretend like everybody's acting alone. You have people behind you who are trying to market you, who it is their job to make you a star, to get you in commercials, to make you a public-facing entity so that you can capitalize on whatever star power you have. So I'm not sitting here saying Cam is the one making all of these decisions or unilaterally trying to decide to become a superstar or whatever it is. But what I am saying is everybody in today's landscape is aware that their individual brand is important. And I'm not saying it's the most important thing. I'm not saying that Cam Ward will be more successful if he has a high Q rating than he will be if he wins a Super Bowl. Like, I understand that for football players, you have to win a lot of football games and play good football in order for people to think you're a good football player. That's kind of relevant. It's kind of the most important thing. But when we're sitting here saying, oh, do people care? Are they aware of the way they're being portrayed, the way they're being discussed? Of course they're aware. It's impossible to truly check out. And Bustin brings up Will Levis, and I think Will Levis is a very... I think that he's an interesting case study, because I think that he was incredibly aware of what people were saying about him. And that was not the number one thing that was causing him to press, but it might have been the number 2 thing that was causing him to press. And
well, okay, how about this? I think the part of him, and this is a little delicate because I don't know him well enough to speak on this exactly, but armchair psychologist here. The thing the thing inside of him that made him press, which is the emotion and the passion and the intensity and all the things that he loves about the game that come out when he struggles, when he throws an interception, and it looks like he can't recalibrate the way Cam Ward doesn't have any of that. I think that is the thing that leads him to care too much acutely about what people are saying about you. I think they are the same. They are baked into the same part of who he is.
That's
if I had to guess.
But all of this is if we're trying to bring it back to the thesis question of how do we talk about the guy, and does the guy care about the way he's being talked about? I think that Cam Ward, like any other front-facing celebrity athlete, has a vested interest in people thinking highly of him, in creating a mystique, whether that mystique is related to being a good guy or being mysterious or being funny or
in his case both.
Yeah, whatever you are crafting that image to be. I think there is a vested interest in crafting that image. Yep. Just like I think that media has a vested interest in capitalizing on the image makers, in the taste makers. There is a reason why there are 10 times as many headlines on the Tennessean about Cam Ward as there are about just about any other Titans player.
Does the Tennessean employ a full-time Taylor Swift beat writer?
Kind of. That's not his title, but
like partially. I think that tells your story. Like,
I think that we are aware as media what people are interested in. And the people who people are interested in are aware that people are interested in them. And there is a little bit of a lichen relationship of the symbiosis, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I know this is more media talk than football talk. And if you guys in the comments want to just say, hey, please start talking about football.
No, we're not. No,
football.
We are not talking about football because there is no football to talk about.
That makes this a show.
Yeah, just a show. We're just doing a show.
Just a show.
It's a football media show. No, I got a lot of things I wrote down here because I want to. A lot of this is sort of like, it's like adjacent or kind of shoots off into a tangential sort of topic or whatever. Like number one, as a father of daughters or of kids at 8 and 9 years old right now, the camera awareness on this generation is astonishing. And I say that to say that the fact that they know exactly, like their behavior changes if mom or I pull out a phone and they're doing something cute or adorable or fun, like they change. And they know what it does to who they are. Like they know there's a chance this could be texted to somebody or posted somewhere, which we do not do. We'll text it to grandma and grandpa or to aunt and uncle, but we don't post stuff. And so the awareness on kids is astonishing. And I think this is what makes Cam so fascinating to me, because I think he does feel like a mysterious private person that values that part of his life, clearly based on your story at Vanderbilt about him. And I think what's interesting is that he also clearly has this other thing, this other half of him that totally understands that I need to be curating my image to some degree, which is the LeBron James thing, which is the I'm going to have 2 documentaries thing, which is when you do see him on social media, there's like the clip of him talking to the high school kids that came out. Was that this week or last week? I don't remember when that came out. But I saw him talking about LeBron leaving the Lakers, right? Like he knows the moments to like humanize himself and when to be like available. And he also knows when he doesn't want to be available. So it's a fascinating dichotomy. A couple other things here. Somebody says being nice. What was the nice to the media thing here? I want to make sure I find that question. Here you go. Coach Will says, but you also have to play nice with the media. Example, T.O. with the Hall of Fame voters is a double-edged sword. Look, T.O. got into the Hall of Fame. If you are great at your sport, you'll get in. I don't think it's that big of a deal. But I do believe, obviously it's hard for me to say because I'm not an objective observer on this. I think it makes sense strategically for athletes to play nice with the media.
Sure.
I think it makes sense. Like you don't have to, you can put in a tiny little bit of investment with a couple reporters and they will probably give you the benefit of the doubt more than you think. Your outsized influence on their coverage will be more than your investment in the relationship, if that makes sense from a player standpoint. So I think there's opportunity there. And my last one here is, having covered politics now or news or current events or elected officials, whatever you want to call it, having covered the mayor and the Metro Council here in Nashville for 3 years now, they are polar opposites in terms of how you cover them versus how they respond to coverage. I'll use Mike Vrabel and Cam Ward. I don't think that they go to bed at night caring one bit at all about what people say to them. I think they're wired in a way that's like, nah, I'm pretty convicted in myself. I'm pretty convicted in what I think. I'm convicted in what I did. I don't like if somebody says something nice or somebody says something good or whatever, but like I'm not up at night thinking about it. It doesn't affect my mental health or whatever. And they know that criticism is baked into the contract, right? They know that you're going to be overly criticized by almost everybody for whatever you do. 4th down call in a game, you're going to criticize the head coach. But they give you nothing. They give you nothing as a reporter. It's very hard to get Vrabel to open up and find something interesting to say. Politicians, elected officials, they're the polar opposite. Exactly inverted. They'll give you everything that they think and feel. They'll take you deep into the recesses of their history and their minds and their brains. And they are the most sensitive people in the world. If you say one negative thing about a decision, I'm going to hear about it. And it's a fascinating dichotomy, having covered that area of our world. where it's like they're totally opposite. Football coaches, they know better. Players know better. It's baked into the contract that you're gonna have to deal with criticism, so you brush it off. But then you also are more closed off when it comes to answering questions.
Yeah, it's to kind of all three of the points you're making, and certainly to the first one you were making. I don't remember the context this was shared to me once. It's some pop psychology that probably is just observational. But somebody told me once that if you look at generations, if you look at, let's say, the older generation, the middle-aged generation, and the younger generation, and you ask all three of them, what do you do for a living? What is your job? The older generation is most likely to respond by saying who they work for, the company that employs them. The middle generation is most likely to respond by saying their job title, and the younger generation is most likely to respond by describing their responsibilities. And I think there is something generationally to that, of when you talk about growing up around phones, when you talk about growing up around social media, the I of it all, the personalization of it all, the centering yourself as the main character in a narrative that is being created in the world, and everybody is their own Sandris main character and all of that stuff. I think that tells us more about quarterbacks of Cam's generation. And let's face it, my generation, I'm not all that much older than them. I grew up, the iPhone came out when I was in middle school. I've been around this stuff. A lot of us listening
You're young, dude.
A lot of us are younger than we think. If you're in your 30s,
I was 4 years into working at Rivals.com when the iPhone came out.
I'm just saying, if I'm in my 30s and the iPhone came out when I was in middle school, technology has been around longer than we think. But all of the point I'm making here is this is not anyone casting aspersions at Cam specifically. I think generationally, it's going to be more common that people are hyper aware of branding, and especially athletes. I was thinking about this the other day. The Players Tribune came out in 2015, like
11 years ago.
Like the Players Tribune, this idea.
Dang it!
This idea of like players are going to reseize the narrative, and we don't need media. We're going to tell our own stories. That's at least it was either 2015 or 2016. Like it is. It is 10 or 11 years old. I remember it being out when I lived in New York, and that was 2016. So like this idea of centering yourself in the narrative is not new. It's not unique to Cam Ward. It's not unique to anybody. Like that's just generationally what's happening.
Yes, that's right. That's right. My dad worked for Verizon. I'm a reporter, and you create content. Does that sound right?
Sure.
Is that what you're saying? Okay. I just want to make sure I'm getting it here. A couple other comments here. Ed says, and this is a good question here, does winning take care of all of this? Winning often changes the perception fans have of players. However, I do think this is an interesting point here where it says Coach Wills comes back with, but I think winning also has a shelf life on opinions. And I do think that, watching the World Cup and seeing fans act a lot like SEC football fans, like the Korea, I don't know if you guys saw, did you see this? Where the Korea coach didn't play his best player in the first half. They lose the final game of group stage, and they end up not making the thing. They flew back to Korea, South Korea, the Korean Republic, whatever they call it now, and they arrived intentionally at like 3 a.m. to avoid coming in at a heavily trafficked time because the coach was getting so much flack. Well, they show up, and it's 3 a.m. at the airport, and I assume Seoul, South Korea, and there are like, yes, they blurred him out. And in the videos, and there was protests at the airport. And I was like, y'all are acting a lot like Tennessee in 2009 when Kiffin left. Like, this is wild. And the reason I explain that and the reason that hits me is that you can win and win and win and win and be great for a while. But it's the what have you done for me thing is so palatable. It's so palpable with an athlete, that especially one that is forward facing and has a lot of interaction with the public. We create content sort of for a living, and it's just it's a hose, man. It never ends.
Yeah.
And if I'm Cam Ward or anyone else, AJ Brown, or anybody who wants to be out there like this because I'm comfortable, because I grew up in it and I'm young, like authenticity is such a huge problem. Like there's no authenticity anymore, and I hope that shows like this, clearly we have no we're not trying to go viral with this conversation, and I hope that people listen to this because it is authentic. But that's what I crave, is authenticity. And I think Cam is pretty authentic, but I also think he has a very clear line where he puts a boundary up. And now we're not even talking about like, are we feeding him fair or not?
You guys want proof that Braden and I aren't trying to go viral? Here you go. Ed, so to further comment on what Braden's talking about, the doesn't winning take care of all this is such a strange rhetorical device, because of course it does. But that can be a response. But that can be a response to literally any conversation about football.
Criminal activity.
we can be sitting here being like, oh, should they have gone for it on third down? And you'd be like, well, winning cures all of it. Yeah, that's the point. It'd be like if me and my family tonight were like, hey, what do you want to do for dinner? And we were throwing 4 and 5 restaurants around, and somebody goes, well, you got to be hungry to want dinner. Well, yeah, well,
so the cat
baked into the situation we're discussing.
I mean, I was only kidding about like criminal activity, but the captain of Cape Verde is like being charged with an assault crime from like a couple of months ago, and Cape Verde is one of the biggest stories in the World Cup, and they're going to play Argentina, I think, tomorrow, and it's like winning. Are you guys going to let him play because you made it into the knockout? Are you going to let him play? Like, what's going to happen? Are you willing to overlook this thing until after the tournament? Criminal activity. Dude, was it DeMarcus Lawrence that had a trunk full of guns through a girl? Did I have the right name?
Are you talking about the running back from Nebraska?
No. Is that Lawrence Phillips you're talking about?
I was thinking Lawrence.
No,
Phillips,
the defensive end. He went. I think he was Boise State, and I think he played for Carolina, and then he got moved to the Cowboys. I think. Maybe I'm wrong on the name.
That describes the person. I'm not. I don't know the history of the criminal activity. Allegedly.
There was a defensive end that had a trunk full of like assault rifles. Threw his girlfriend down on top of it and like closed the trunk and got a job. You know why? Because he could come off the edge. So the point is like I'm just saying we and I think that's not a football thing. That's in all of American society, we overlook a lot of flaws if you can offer success, productivity, joy, whatever it might be, aka winning, right? For lack of a better term.
And let's put a bow on this and then talk about some other topics, because Jared did a good job of Jared in Spring Hill with a comment here is really bringing us back to what we were trying to ask. So what's a fair criticism for Ward then? In my opinion, I am but one man. In my opinion, a fair criticism for Cam Ward is whatever you think you're seeing on the football field, it's fair to say it. If you're going after family, if you're going after personal life, if you're going after stuff that has no... Greg Hardy went to Ole Miss. You might have been mixing up players, but he did also play for the Panthers. And
okay, thanks for cleaning that up. I appreciate it.
What is a fair criticism for Cam Ward? Whatever you think you're seeing on the field, it's fair to share your opinion.
Yeah.
Should everybody have a platform? That's a question for Mark Zuckerberg. But should everybody get to voice their opinion? We live in a world where everybody does get to voice their opinion. If you have an opinion, share it. It goes over the line when you start to make conversation.
When it's personal. When
it's personal, it goes over the line. But what is a fair criticism of Cam Ward? If he throws an interception and you're like, oh, he should know better. This is a guy who throws a bunch of interceptions because he doesn't learn. If that's your opinion, if that's your conviction, say it. Well, if you're like, oh, it doesn't matter, the talent is going to win out, I still think he's great, say what you think.
Yeah, I think now, again, I have my own style. You have your own style. Everyone has their own style in the media on how they cover this stuff. So I think there is a tone that I have always taken in general that will be as harshly critical as possible if it is called for it. But I always think the line is if it's not personal. And I've had people that work at teams that say to me like, hey, you can be as critical of that player as you want to be, but if it gets personal, that's where I'm going to defend the team and the player. Like, they know this stuff is baked in. Criticism is baked in. Now, I would argue there is no more criticized position than quarterback in the NFL, especially one taken first in the draft. Now, do I think we have to analyze? I think the one thing that might be unfair, and I might be wrong about this, I think you can be as critical of Cam Ward or any player as much as you want to be on the field about their jobs, like what they're supposed to do, because that's our job, is to analyze what they're supposed to do. I don't think that the where you got drafted thing goes with you as long as people think it does. I think eventually, like, because otherwise you have to add context. Oh, it wasn't a great draft class. Oh, the Titans were desperate at that position. Like, there weren't a lot of other great options. Like, you got to add all this other context, and that's just not an easy way to live. Trying to explain that to people for the rest of your life. I think eventually you just go, you know, like he was a 82 on a Madden scale and ended up being a good quarterback, and here's where he wasn't good enough, and it was what it was. Or he's a 93 and he's capable of competing for Super Bowls because he's been very good, and it doesn't really matter where you got picked. So I think that part's a little unfair, but I think unfair is probably the wrong word because it's baked into the first 2 years, probably, if not 3 years of covering somebody. Eventually, I think it's not really relevant.
I'll disagree in a sense that I think if you're a top pick and you don't work out, you're always going to be defined by the fact that you were a top pick that doesn't work out.
But it's not your fault that it's the GM who was wrong or the coach who was wrong, not the player.
But that's just not how we judge things in American society. Should we judge things differently? That's for a different show, a judgment show here on the 440 Sports Network. But like, as far as we are discussing football players, you're a Packers fan. Let's put it in this terms. Who got the blame for Tony Mandrich being a bust? Historically, Tony Mandrich. He was a bust.
Yeah, totally.
Nobody blames the GM. Nobody's sitting here parsing the GM 35 years later. The bust was the bust, and we remember, oh, he didn't live up to the expectations. He didn't live up to the hype. We can go for every team. There are some situations where if you're really, really close to it, I'm sure here in Nashville, if you're really, really close to it, Isaiah Wilson, we're going to talk about the guy who picked him more than we're going to talk about the player.
Right.
There are some busts where the GM is connected to it. But more or less, does anybody in the comments know who the general manager was of the San Diego Chargers when they drafted Ryan Leaf? No. We know the context. We understand, this, that, the other, blah, 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 blah. The person who gets blamed for being a bust is the person who was a bust. The person who had all of the potential, who the entire league believed should have gone where they went and didn't work out.
Yeah.
So it's going to stick with them.
A couple of things here. Jared says, so you're ripping people's opinion but acknowledging we're all entitled to them. Free speech. I don't really know that we're ripping people's opinions on him. I don't think that's what we're doing. We're saying that if it's in the field of play or involving a non-personal element of him, then it's fair game and have the opinion that you want. And I would argue, please do it in a way that is authentic to yourself, is what I would say. Bustin, this is interesting here. Maybe reaching, but I think a portion of stan culture is starting to ruin some football discourse. It's always been there, but social media has amplified and united those types of people. Can I do a dramatic interpretation of Paul Karski? Like, he and I have talked about.
You go first, because this is my favorite topic on earth to talk about.
He and I have, in fact, he and I not only agree on this full-throatedly, but he screamed at me at Titans camp one time because of this kind of thing here around this topic. I assume what you mean by stans is like, do you just want to be fed good content about your favorite thing? Is that what he's talking about?
No. Okay. Can I take over for a second here?
Okay, because that's how Stan is just a diehard fan of a team, is it not? Am I wrong on this?
So when we're talking about stan culture, and this is my interpretation, Bustin, tell me if I'm wrong.
Please.
Usually when I talk about stan culture and the way that I think stan culture is ruining discourse, it's less about what you want to be said, and it's more about what you are willing to believe. So if you are a stan of pop star A, you are going to believe that pop star A is infallible, that everything they do is good. You are a stan. You will support them no matter what. And so it's not about you don't want to be fed criticism. It is more about you are conditioned to think criticism is hate. That person is a hater. We need to. So it's where you're coming from. And like the reason that I got so gleeful when we started talking about this comment,
I can see your face.
Like true glee. This is prepared material. We're venturing back into Nick. We're venturing back into Nick doing stand-up mode. When I was a teenager, my two favorite things on earth were Saturday Night Live and Weezer. Both things that suck. I can say this as somebody who loves these two things indiscriminately.
Okay.
My favorite Weezer album is an unreleased set of demos from 2013, 2014 called Eki Homo.
Of course it is.
I am a gigantic dork. I am a massive dork. I can also tell you
Dork
that
corner?
of their way too many studio albums, most of them are bad. People on the show have heard me talk about Saturday Night Live before. I care more about SNL than many people care about their flesh and blood children. It is an unhealthy obsession, and anyone who's heard me talk about it knows this. I am also on the record that out of the 10 segments in any given episode of SNL, if 2 of them are good, that is an A episode. That is an A grade episode, bordering on A+, if you get 2 good segments in 90 minutes.
Damn, that's a low bar, buddy.
It's not a low bar. It's just how the show works.
Okay,
Most things that happen on the show are bad. I learned how to love things by acknowledging. I learned how to love things by acknowledging that the things I love are bad more often than they're good. And because of that, I came to recognize, I came to understand what it was I loved about the things I loved, because I knew how to juxtapose it against the stuff I didn't love. To point out, I love it because for every time Weezer makes a song like Love Is the Answer, they also put out a song as good as Burnt Jam. Like, there is a juxtaposition of I've seen so much.
You're a baseball fan. You love guys who get out 70% of the time, and it's the best in the history of the game.
Yeah, it's you. In order to know what you love, you have to be able to know what you don't love. And I think that stan culture, if you're asking in what way has stan culture ruined the way we talk about sports, I think it's this: of if you are somebody who roots for the player or roots for the team without any critical thought about why you actually root for the player or why you actually root for the team. If you're somebody who's sitting here with LeBron James entering free agency at 42 years old or however old he is, and is sitting here saying he's exactly as good as he was in 2011, he's still the same LeBron, he's still a dog, whoever gets him is going to win a championship, that's bad for discussing art. That's bad. You need to be able to criticize the thing you like. If you are somebody who is on the internet saying Cam Ward is perfect no matter what, I will ride with Cam. You know what's a perfect encapsulation of this? And this isn't criticizing the person, but it might be criticizing some of the audience, and I might be biting the hand that feeds me a little bit. The let Ran cook thing that happened during Ran Carthon's first year as a Titans fan.
I don't think there's many in this.
I don't know if anybody here was like diehard let Ran cook, but I think that's like a perfect localized description of what I'm talking about. Of like when you just indiscriminately are like, I support this guy, so everything this guy does, I support now.
You know, you're describing like all political discussions on Twitter.
I know I am, but like,
well, let me add. I'm gonna. Like, because this is now prepared material for both of us to some degree, because what I was thinking, I think still applies to this. It may be a subtle kind of tweak or adjustment or whatever, but it's mostly that, like, to me, it exhibits a fundamental misunderstanding of humanity and our existence in this world to not acknowledge the flaws of other humans.
Sure.
Like that is a fundamental misunderstanding of existence and who you are and who I am and who everyone else is. And I find that to be, I suppose that if you choose to do that, as long as you are aware that you're choosing to do that, I'm like, do whatever you want, you know, that's fine. But my dad and I were talking about Josh Jacobs yesterday, right? We were talking about Josh Jacobs yesterday and we were chatting about it. And I'm just like, I don't know what they're going to do, but I could give 2 shits if he ever plays for the Packers again. Like whether it's, I assume it's true, whatever. Like, I don't know. It's alleged. I don't know the information. I'm not following it. But my dad asked about it. And I was just like, there's a handful of players that are being accused of some similar stuff in the World Cup that's happening right now. Like there's one for Ghana. There's one for Morocco. There's one for Cape Verde. And so I'm just like, the put your head in the sand thing and just only I guess there is a difference here where I'm kind of talking about the person who only wants positive coverage versus the person who really truly doesn't admit that individual has human flaws, aka is a person.
Yeah.
And those are subtle differences, and my question more revolves around, what do you want as a fan, and when did we stop? When did we? And I think this is where I think they're the similar thing. When did we get so fragile? When did Americans get so fragile where we can't handle this stuff? We can't handle a little criticism or thought-provoking debates about how this thing could be better, or I want the real story about what's happening with my favorite team. I don't want it to be bullshit. I want it to be real. Tell me the real thing. I can handle it. I'm not that fragile. I will survive. Like, I'm going to be okay. So are all of you. And I think most of you listening are probably in this boat. So I don't know. That's the one that PK and I have argued about together on the same side for a very long time, which is, if you want state-run radio, go listen to Mike Keith. If you wanted state-run propaganda, go, and Jim Wyatt probably does a better job than anyone else who works for a team, like, of telling the truth. Go read those guys. Like, that's every play-by-play guy I've ever interviewed in college football. Like, I have them on the show knowing that we're going to do a roo-rah-rah segment about how exciting this team could be in the summer. I don't have the play-by-play guy on. Like, I'm hosting Feinbaum next week. I am not going to have a play-by-play guy on for a team that could be going backwards next year. Because then he's going to have to just spew nonsense the entire interview. And I don't want that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, you're frozen.
No, sorry. I was thinking about Weezer again. You want me to talk about Weezer for 8 more minutes?
No.
You guys want to talk about
done.
Weezer for 8 minutes?
We're done.
No?
We're
done with that?
I was talking too long that you zoned me out. That's bad.
No, I was joking. I was reading comments. I was catching up.
Makes sense. Nick covers the Titans and all the players. Both things are typically bad. We were praising the guy at the drive-through window. We let Rand cook, and it turns out he was a line cook at your local Applebee's. That's shout out to Applebee's.
My criticism with that was not of anyone in particular. It is just a good metaphor for what we're talking about. We just indiscriminately believe in this guy now. He can't do anything wrong. It's cool that that's human nature, that we can all jump on a bandwagon really quick, but it might not be the most productive way to think about things.
No, it's not. And Coach Willis, this is actually going to spark a whole nother episode maybe next week for Nick and I. I fell in love with the Titans the day they lost the Super Bowl. I started this thing in hell, to Nick's point about knowing kind of what you're rooting for through the lens of knowing what's bad about it to some degree, right? Is what you're kind of talking about there. I do find the types of franchises we each gravitate towards to be really interesting. And you don't normally get to analyze that entire dynamic of a league and then choose a team. Normally you don't get to do that. If you're picking an EPL soccer team and you've never watched EPL soccer right now, you would get to do that like I did last year, where I actually went through the psychology of the process and tried to found a team that like kind of hit the marks that I wanted to have. I don't want another team that hurts me the way the New York Mets have hurt me. And frankly, until about a week ago, the New York Knicks have hurt me for my life. I didn't want one of those teams when I picked an EPL team. So I am fascinated by like the human psychology of the type of franchise you root for, because there's a lot of people who love the teams that don't. And this is, again, I'm not trying to go soccer here, but it's the World Cup. But Roger Bennett was telling a story on another show I listened to about why he's an Everton fan, and he told a really fascinating anecdote about his father. And Everton, if you don't know, won championships a long time ago, but has not really been relevant in fighting for a championship for the last like 50 years during this one individual's life. But his father had told him when he was young, like, sometimes, son, it's the lessons we learn about losing. Sometimes, son, you need to lose to understand what the winning really is. And I think that's kind of similar to what you're saying. It's also the language people use when they root for teams who never win. So I don't know which one comes first, the psychology that's gravitating towards that or the experience that forces that psychology. I don't know.
Let me say one coy thing that everybody in the comments will know what I mean, and then I'll leave it at this. There was a third thing as a teenager that I loved just as much as Saturday Night Live and Weezer. And that third thing made me sad more often than either of those other two things made me sad. So
boobs. No.
Sure.
I'm kidding.
Sure. We all know what I'm talking about. So.
Yeah. Well, I will not make all the marriage jokes. Anyway, look, I find this conversation to be interesting. I really just wanted your opinion on if you think that we have covered him, not you and I, but like the entire ecosystem, because I think Nashville's a relatively chill media market. I think people do care about the actual stories. I don't think there are some personalities that are larger than others, and that's okay because every media ecosystem needs that. And so I think that, this is not New York where everyone's trying to be some superstar with like some awful take. Like, I don't think most people on the Titans beat are trying to go viral. I don't think that. I actually believe most everybody out there is trying to just tell fun, good, interesting stories about a thing that we all love a lot. And I think, that's a little navel gazy for an episode, but that was a good conversation, Nick. So go to Sinkers Beverages, everybody.
Yeah. Go to Sinkers Beverages. We got 4 minutes left.
No, we're done. We're done. This was supposed to be like 40 minutes, and we already we did one topic. So, no, I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate all you guys in the comments. Really interesting. It's all of these perspectives from us are only one part of the story. The other part of the story is how all of you guys take all of this, whether it's our content or what Cam Ward puts out or what the Titans put out or what your friends in the group chat are saying. Like, it's all relevant to what you experience. And so, authenticity is the thing that I am now seeking. I find in my content, I am actively trying to find as much authenticity as possible. I may not agree with you. I may not think that what you're saying is right, but if you're being real about it, you're being intellectually honest about it, then I think you're probably doing okay. And I hope that is valued in technological, incentives. And I don't know if it is. Sinkers Beverages for the USA match tonight. Sinkers Beverages for all your other World Cup matches. Sinkers Beverages for your weekend needs, for your small parties. Sinkers Beverages to get good local craft beer out of that award-winning craft beer fridge. You can get East Nashville Beer Works, you can get Tennessee Brew Works, and you can get Yazoo Brewing Company. All three of those great local brands you can get at the award-winning Sinkers Beverages retail craft beer fridge. Good stuff, Nick. Hopefully that wasn't too stressful and hard for you. Go back to relaxation and hanging out with your nephew and the family. So thank you for hanging out. We do appreciate it. Safe travels to you and everybody out there. Go USA. We'll talk to you next week.